Welcome back. Now, World Athletics is making headlines with its decision to introduce mandatory sex testing for female competitors. Now, some might say this is a long overdue win for common sense. I'm joined now by the Senior Research Fellow in Culture and Identity at Policy Exchange, Lara Brown. Lara, welcome to the show. A lot of people say, well, what took them so long? Women's sport should be for biological women and biological women alone. What do you say?
I completely agree. This is a big win. And I think the first thing to do is to commend Lord Coe. He's been a really consistent defender of the women's category. But we also can't get too excited and decide this is a huge win and everything's changed. There are still several serious concerns that I have about the women's category. This isn't the end. The first is the safety of amateur sport. So last year, Policy Exchange published Levelling the Playing Field, and we found that huge numbers of women aren't even getting to a professional point because they're forced out of playing recreational sport by the presence of trans women, that's biological men, in the female category. And the second is this is just one federation. So it's really excellent that World Athletics is now going to require this. That will protect track and field events at the World Championships and at the Olympics. But the Olympics as a whole has not changed. And what we urgently need is Olympic guidance that requires women to have cheek swabs before they enter into the Olympics. As I'm sure you saw, Lord Coe didn't win the election for president of the IOC, the Olympic Committee, and we're now waiting for Kirsty Coventry to explain her position on this. But as a reminder of the position last year, a biological man was allowed to compete in the boxing. He hit a woman harder than she'd ever been hit before. She lasted 30 seconds in the fight. And if we take a look at the IOC's portrayal guidance for sport journalism, they state that a person's sex category is not assigned based on genetics alone. So this is a big win. We've got a long way to go.
Lara, how was it that sport was so captured by trans ideology? You know that boxing match you're talking about there? I watched it with my children, and my children could tell this was wrong. My children at the time were 10 and 13. It was cruel, it was savage, it was clearly somebody being really, really badly beaten in. When did that become OK to be a spectacle?
It was horrific. Last year's Olympics were meant to be the gender equality Olympics. And instead, we saw screened on live television for millions to watch male violence against women. And I think you're right. Almost everyone I've spoken to can tell this is intuitively wrong. They don't want women being beaten up by men. They don't want women's sport to be destroyed, which is what will happen. But what we've seen in sport is years and years of very consistent lobbying by groups like Stonewall to undermine the female category. And we've also seen serious punishment for those that have spoken out. Many of the girls who have refused to compete against trans women, so biological men, in sport have been given bans from their sport. They've been prevented from winning medals. There have been really harsh penalties imposed by a few people for anyone trying to speak common sense. And that's the work we've got to now start undoing.
OK, it's a fascinating topic and, as you say, perhaps a breakthrough for women and safety in women's sports. That's the Senior Research Fellow in Culture and Identity at Policy Exchange, Lara Brown.